just want to offer a welcome, and for some of you, a welcome back to the 2017 operating season. Great to have you here. We're excited for you to join us for what is actually our 70th anniversary year. I hope to get around to see you, but certainly if you see me, come and introduce yourself. Don't be afraid to do that, because certainly I'd love to meet you and have a chat with you. You all will have very specific jobs, but I think it's important to understand where that fits into the bigger picture and what the Conservation Authority is trying to accomplish. A bit of a history, as I said, this is our 70th year of operation. Means we were formed in 1947. So if you're a historian, that must mean we're well into the fourth generation of staff working for the Upper Thames. What that means is it's not only a great legacy, but there's a lot of people out there who, like you, will have received an Upper Thames paycheck. And I think if you let people know that you're working here, or when they find out you're working here, you'll meet lots of people who've been here before you, and they've often got great stories to share with you. So you're part of a big, long legacy, a great team that's been working for our local environment. We are one of 36 conservation authorities in Ontario. Ontario is the only place with conservation authorities. But even though there's 36 of us, we have some common principles. The first one is we all are based on a watershed jurisdiction. So that means for us, any water that drains off the land flows into the Thames. So our boundaries are somewhat irregular, but it's a brilliant way to manage the environment, and it's entirely appropriate. Another principle is cost sharing, so how we get our revenue. And originally the deal was that the municipalities in our watershed and the province of Ontario would share those costs for our operation. They've argued a bit over time about who pays how much, but for the most part that has been retained. For those of you working in the parks and the tree planting program, user fees are part of where our revenue comes from, as people pay to get into the park or pay their share of the cost of trees, for example. The final principle based on which all conservation authorities were created is local governance. So you may or may not hear, we are run by a board of directors. So we have 15 people who are essentially volunteers who meet here once a month, and they are the ones who set the policies, the programs for the Conservation Authority. They make sure we're delivering services that are relevant locally. Those 15 individuals are all of our bosses. They are great people, and I know some of them will be visiting sites, being parts of events, and many of you will run into them. So if you have someone come to you saying, I'm on the board of directors, I'm chair of the board, just recognize they're part of the team too, and again, they're nothing but supportive. A bit more about the Upper Thames when it comes to staff. We've got about 87 full-time and about 100 seasonal, of which you are part. We're about the 5th largest authority in terms of staff out of the 36 in Ontario. Our budget's about $18 million, and if you work in the parks are about $4 million of that budget. So we're a fairly big operation. What do we do as the Upper Thames? We say there's 4 things we're trying to accomplish. The first is protecting people and their property from flooding and hazards, and things like our dams and reservoirs are a key tool to achieving that. Secondly, we protect and improve water quality, so we do lots of monitoring, and you'll hear about stewardship programs to work with private landowners to do projects on their property to improve water quality. Third, we manage and expand natural areas, and translate that, tree planting is the key tool, woodlot management as well. And the final one is providing outdoor recreation and education opportunities, hoping people can come and experience and be inspired by the out of doors. So I hope you can see where your role fits into that. Obviously the managers will give you some ideas of specific programs that support those ends, but that's really what we're about. Even though we're an environmental organization, we don't do everything related to the environment. We're not involved in air quality or energy conservation necessarily. We support it, but really we try and limit our focus to those 4 things.
So the Water and Information Management Unit includes both managing our information management systems as well as water management programs. And I'll start by talking about the information management systems. It's a service that's provided to the rest of the organization. It includes our computers, communications services between the computers and the servers, also the wiring and hardware that makes all that sort of thing happen, connection to the internet, and as well as our phone systems. Information and data are very important to our organization, and these systems make it more accessible and available for analysis and interpretation. So in water management, one of our responsibilities is for maintaining and operating our flood and erosion control structures. It includes large dams like Fanshawe Dam, Wildwood and Piddock dams as well as some smaller recreational structures like our Thomas River Dam in Stratford, Mitchell Dam, and some of the small CA dams at places like Fullerton and Harrington. We also maintain large diking systems that protect a large number of people in the London area. An important role of the Conservation Authority is providing flood forecasting and warning to the watershed. This program involves having gauges located throughout the watershed, being able to monitor the conditions, watching the forecasts, and using computerized models and experience to be able to determine what type of impacts might people in flood-prone areas might be looking at during a flood event. Another area that our unit is focusing on is a renewal of our hazard mapping and modeling. The mapping and modeling important so that we understand where and what areas might be impacted by flooding and to what extent. And that's an area of focus right now as we're updating modeling, and then that mapping and modeling is used for informing our regulatory processes and our land use planning programs here at the Conservation Authority.
So there's kind of three main areas that we're involved with. The first being the planning end of things. So we're usually reviewing planning and development applications across the watershed from our municipalities. And those Planning Act applications could be plans of subdivisions, zoning bylaw amendments, applications to sever lands, or even more comprehensive reviews of zoning bylaws and official plans themselves. So we have a team that's primarily responsible for that, commenting on any natural hazards or natural heritage features for the watershed. The second area of our business is involving our regulations. So under the Conservation Authorities Act, we administer Section 28 of the Act that deals with any development, construction, and site alteration within areas that we regulate, being flooding hazards, erosion hazards, wetlands, and those areas of interference around wetlands. So we have a staff devoted to attending site visits, meeting with potential builders or developers, trying to locate and avoid where those hazard lands are to protect life and property. The third area of our business is actually related to the drinking water source protection. We have a source protection region, which is the Upper Thames River, the Lower Thames River, and the St. Clair Region Conservation Authorities worked together to develop source protection plans. We are now in a state where we're implementing the source protection plans. We identify areas where there's highly vulnerable aquifers, significant groundwater recharge areas, and wellhead protection areas, and identify where there could be significant threats to those drinking water sources and avoid those threats.
One of the core programs would be our monitoring program. So we partake in provincial water quality monitoring networks for surface water and groundwater. We have a benthic program that's led by an aquatic biologist and fisheries monitoring and all that kind of stuff that goes into identifying water quality throughout the various sub-watersheds in the Upper Thames. So a great thing to kind of look to kind of see what all that work kind of culminates into is when you see the watershed report cards that come out every 5 years that are our attempt to summarize how things have been going in the 5-year stretch since the last report card. So have the conditions improved or declined, and it's kind of done in a simple format in like a grade, like a report card. So that's one of the key things that we deliver. Currently, we're involved in an initiative called the Thames River Clearwater Revival, and the current project is to develop an updated water management plan for the whole Thames watershed. So our ecologist has been acting as a project manager to lead the development of an update of a plan that was done in the 70s. It kind of looks at water issues, water management issues, and ways to address those in the whole Thames watershed. So collaborating with folks including First Nations, the various provincial land-based ministries and the Lower Thames and municipalities to kind of come up with a game plan for addressing these issues. Research that we're involved with that a lot of folks would kind of gain exposure to our unit would be through species at risk programs, so for both fish, mussels, and turtles, snakes, all that kind of stuff. So you'll see throughout the summer there's an extensive program to go on that brings in endangered turtle species and understand where they are in the watershed, their movements, and kind of their habitat needs, and look at ways to kind of improve those conditions. So they're brought into incubators and raised as hatchling and released back to where they came from. In addition, there's a lot of material or activity you'll see around fishery sampling to kind of understand where fish species are in the watershed, and again as a way of kind of indicating habitat and water quality conditions. So again, some of the flashier things that we'll see a little bit more, and people are always interested in kind of learning about. So one of the final ways a lot of folks may have some interaction with folks in the unit comes from a variety of technical support services, I guess, we would provide for probably all other units in the authority. So the simple one there to think of is geographic information system. So in some way, everybody uses the services from the GIS department. So it could be the online mapping or project spatial analysis that's being done, or in some cases out in the field, we support the use of GPS technology and data acquisition that way.
I believe most of you will be working out of Fanshawe or Wildwood or Pittock Conservation Area this summer, and that land base comprises of 3,000 hectares. Now the authority owns and manages 6,000 hectares, so one of the responsibilities of this unit is to manage the other 3,000 hectares. So if we have trails, we do trail management, we do risk management, enforcement, encroachment. Very similar things on all of our lands are done continuously throughout the year. Some of the lands we own, we do not permit public access because of the sensitive features on some of the landscapes. Also, this unit manages all the land acquisition and disposition for the authority. Some of those examples over the past 12 months, we acquired 2 properties. Some examples of some of the projects we've completed on a large scale would be the Watershed Conservation Center that was completed several years ago. On a smaller scale, a capital project would be, for example, this year we completed a cold storage shed that will house seedlings in preparation for our tree planting season. The unit also manages fleet services, so if this summer you're driving a car or a truck or a tractor or using a tree trimmer or a grass trimmer, that comes out of fleet services. They manage all of that type of vehicles and equipment. This unit manages, under contract with the City of London, 9 environmentally significant areas in the City of London. We've been doing that contract for about 15 years. And it's passive access, public access, but it's very intensive management because we have 1,600 homes surrounding the ESA properties.
Conservation Services Group is probably the most exciting group within the Conservation Authority. We work on extension services with folks throughout the whole watershed. We work to improve water quality, we work to improve soil health, create space for wildlife habitat. So how do we do the things we do within the Conservation Services Group? Well, we work with, again, agencies such as the Ministry of Agriculture and Food. We work with community groups. We work with our municipalities. And most importantly, we work with private landowners. Within our group, we work with rural and urban folks. We work a lot on farms. We work with agricultural soil erosion control, promote cover crops, promote conservation tillage and cropping, encourage no-till, all good things to try to help with soil health, protect our water quality. We also plant trees. We plant 50 to 80,000 trees in a given year on private lands. Native trees, native shrubs, wildflowers, grasses, all to protect our local water resources. Amongst some of the other projects are constructed wetlands, again, ways to improve water quality that might be running off point source pollution areas. Could be agricultural based or could be industry based.
Well, our unit is really broad because we have both community and corporate services. I'm going to start off with talking a little bit about corporate services. These are things like administration, HR, human resources, and finance, who I'm sure everybody here is going to come in contact with. And really, this unit is all about servicing all of the other mission centers of the Conservation Authority. So if we as a unit need help, we go to those corporate services units and we ask HR, finance, and our admin for assistance. A little bit different, but included in corporate services, is marketing and communications. And marketing and communications really, again, helps everybody across the Conservation Authority really tell people what it is that we do. It's really about creating value for all of the work that you do and everybody does in this organization. How do we get the word out? How do we get people to understand what it is that we do and really value how important our work is? Well, now I'm going to tell you a little bit about community partnerships. Hopefully you'll get a chance to meet some of these staff. Community partnerships, again, is two different units, but work so very closely together. Community partnership staff is actually working with people in the community, trying to link those friends of and community groups with all of the resources that we have here at the Authority. So with somebody looking for some local information about their neighborhood health, of their own watershed, can we bring our experts out and help them understand more? Can we get them more involved with the kind of work that we're doing here at the Authority? Community education, you can imagine, is much more like environmental ed, outdoor ed, and we're working with students, everything from kindergarten right up to grade 12, and even some university students, again with curriculum-based programming that is linking them, trying to, instead of, let's say, learning about the Nile, we want you to learn about the Thames. And so these are teachers that are out doing programming either in the school or in the parks, trying to create that real conservation ethic in the young people in our watershed, because we know the sooner we get to them, the more likely they are to have a real respect for their own environment.
The conservation areas are often referred to as the face of the Authority. Typically, when the public is asked what they know about the UTRCA, they identify Fanshawe, Wildwood, and Pittock conservation areas. We can be proud to call ourselves the link between the community and the Authority as a whole. Our conservation areas attract over 500,000 visitors annually, offering a variety of outdoor recreational experiences, including nightly and seasonal camping, boating, fishing, hiking, and biking, just to name a few. We attract visitors from across the border, as well as visitors from local communities. Beyond the recreational opportunities that we offer, the Conservation Areas Unit partners with over 20 nonprofit organizations that expand the outdoor recreational experience. The Sailing Club, Rowing Club, YMCA partnerships are just a few of the organizations that we work with.
Fanshawe Conservation Area is a great place for everyone to come out and enjoy and play in the outdoors. We have a lot of great campsites, overnight campsites where people can come out, plug in hydro, have water service, seasonal camping where campers can have their decks and their sheds in their trailer. And then of course we also have many day use opportunities where people can come out, rent a canoe, hike our lake trail or bike our lake trail. It's 25 kilometers long and it actually encompasses the entire lake. So it's a great place for everyone to come out and play.
So the best part about Pittock Conservation Area is the endless opportunities that present itself for everyone in the family to enjoy. Whether you're coming out to camp, hike, bike, canoe, fish, or boat, there's something for everyone to enjoy. So yeah, the backcountry and wilderness sites are a new feature that we've added at Pittock Conservation Area, and essentially what these are is promoting a new natural experience at Pittock, essentially where you can have that Northern Ontario feel right here close to home.
Wildwood has a lot of things to offer. Camping, fishing, boating, new this year backcountry sites, so a little bit for everybody. The trails, very popular for hiking and biking, and many events that we have throughout the year, so it's a popular spot in the local community.
It is the amazing staff that make these conservation areas work. Regardless of job title, we are all in the business of customer service. We want to ensure that every customer that visits has a positive experience and leaves with a better appreciation for the environment.
That's the big picture about what the Conservation Authority is trying to accomplish. But we're totally aware you might be here for other reasons too. The two biggest would be you need a paycheck, and secondly you might want some experience, and we get that. But we hope while you're here you take advantage of opportunities as well. and make the most of your time. If you see other parts of our business or jobs that other staff are involved in, by all means, we encourage you to ask about it, learn about it. Your supervisors are very helpful people. And frankly, we've all been in your position. Pretty well all of us started tree planting, cutting grass, cleaning washrooms. Some of us still do it. But we understand where you're starting from. For those of us who've been here full time, we feel lucky to have been able to stay with the organization, to continue the environmental agenda, and just move things forward. But for all of us, I think we're always learning, we're always asking questions, and I encourage you to do that through this experience as well, to make it as positive as possible.